going to get right into it, folks. I'm so excited to share this with you. See the guy on this t-shirt? Herb Alpert. I met him. I just met him. And when I tell you, it's so excited. If you're tuning into this and you were drawn to the title, Carmine Meets Herb Alpert, then you must be a Herb Alpert fan. So, long story short, when I was growing up in the 60s, my dad was a big fan of Herb. My dad had all of his albums. And so naturally, living in that household, growing up as a boy, I heard the albums. And so roughly, Herb always had the Babe. He always had the Babe. He always, look how stylish he was. He always had the Babe on the cover. That's the same cover twice. I just wanted to see if you were paying attention. He always had the Babe. Here she is again. And then here is the most iconic album of all time, perhaps. It caused a lot of problems for some mothers because during dinner time, their sons could not be found. And here she is in what people thought was whipped cream, but it's really shaving cream. The name of the album is called Whipped Cream and Other Delights. What I don't understand is, if that's shaving cream, why is she putting it in her mouth? Maybe they put whipped cream on her finger just for the photograph. But, so this all started because Herb, at 91, is touring again. And he's put together a new Tijuana brass horn section. And he was just in my area. He was about 20 minutes away from my house in March. And I missed it. I did. This is the thing. The flyer that went out, it went out like in September. And I must have reviewed all of the names. And I must have seen Herb Alpert in March of 2026, but for some reason it just didn't register. Maybe I said, I'll address it later, but March came and went. I missed the show. I was very upset. Then there's a new documentary. It's streaming now for free, and I watched it, and I could have watched it for another 2 hours. It was just spectacular. The man is iconic. He's a living legend. He was ahead of his time. And so I'm going to get into a little bit more of that later on, how he discovered the Carpenters. He signed the Police. Yeah. So this man is the real deal. He's worth about 800 million with an M dollars. So I'm saying all this to say, when I saw that documentary, I went to his website and I saw the tour dates. And I saw that he left the East Coast and he was now on his way to the West Coast. He sold out the Hollywood Bowl. He sold out in Arizona. He sold out in Nevada. Selling out everywhere he goes. And then he starts working his way back to my area. I live on Long Island. He's in Philadelphia. He's in Massachusetts. He's in New Jersey. So I asked ChatGPT, what is the closest location to my house? And it comes up with New Brunswick, New Jersey. So I go to the theater's website. The tickets are selling fast. There's not many tickets left. There's only one in the orchestra. There's a few in the back, and there's a few in the balcony. So I bought that single seat in the 8th row. And I said, you know what? For $79, if I go, I go. If I don't go, it's only $79. But what I did to sort of motivate myself to go is because it's a 3-hour drive from my home, I also booked a hotel for the night. I was so excited because the hotel, I could walk across the street. The hotel and the theater were 400 feet, maybe less apart. That's how close it was. So on Thursday, I ventured out, and getting off of Long Island was the hardest part. It was an hour and a half just to get off of Long Island. And then once I crossed the Verrazano Bridge, there was some traffic, but it was smooth sailing to New Brunswick. I got lost a little bit when I got into that industrial area. But when I pull up to this industrial area, commercial area, there's the theater. It's just a historic theater. It's just, it was magnificent inside. And I go to my hotel, I check in, and I go across the street. I want to check out, maybe there's something going on, maybe a sound check, I'm very early. Sure enough, outside there's these two roadies, and I'm going to call one of them Jack. So I said, is there a meet and greet? Is there some type of autograph session? And the guy says, look, the man is 91 years old. There is no meet and greet. Okay, all right. What about paraphernalia? He goes, you mean merchandise? I go, yes, merchandise. He says, I'll be selling it inside. He says, dude, come back in a few hours and enjoy the show. It's going to be a blast. You're going to love it. I said, okay, see you later. Whew. I go to my room. I take a nap. I get refreshed. I have reservations at this nice restaurant. And I have some sushi tartare. What's it called? Tuna tartare. And I had a nice salad. I met this nice couple. They were going to the theater also. They were up in the balcony. And so I go. And sure enough, at the merchandise table, there's Jack. My buddy Jack. So I said, hey, Jack, what's the story with these sizes? He goes, look, whatever you decide, there's no exchange in them. I said, you run a tight ship, Jack. This is the thing. The large was more like a medium, and the extra large was like a 2X. So I'm like, I really don't know what to do here. I got the extra large. I shrunk it. You can see I'm wearing it right now. Very cool shirt. Very cool. So I see the show, sell out, standing room only, standing ovations, people. There's videos playing in the background. And remarkable how 60 years later, 6 decades ago, this man was at the height of his career. In 1965, Herb Alpert sold more albums than the Beatles. The Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass had 4 albums in Billboard's top 10 and 5 albums in Billboard's top 20. You can look it up. They sold more albums in 1965 than the Beatles. So Herb was at the height of his career, and they wanted to give him his own hourly program. So they said, Herb, the public have never heard you sing. Why don't we find a song for you? And let's really dazzle them, let them hear the trumpeter sing. So Herb agreed and said, look, you find me the right song, and I'll do it. At the time, Dionne Warwick had a song, a minor hit, with Burt Bacharach's This Gal's in Love with You. So Herb, being a friend of Burt's, calls up Burt and says, look, can you reword This Gal's in Love with You to be This Guy's in Love with You? And he did. And the rest is history. It gets played, and it goes to #1. That's Herb's first #1 single as a vocalist. Fast forward 14 years later to 1979, the year I graduated high school. Herb comes back with a comeback hit called Rise in 1979. And the thing behind the song Rise was Herb had hit a slump. The Tijuana Brass had just broken up. And not that they broke up, but they dismantled. The fame was over. It was over. And he felt like his career was over. So he went to see this teacher in Manhattan. His name was Carmine, just like my name is Carmine. And Carmine told Herb, the instrument is you. The instrument is not the trumpet. You are the instrument. And with that revelation, Herb got a renaissance. He got a new resurgence of energy. His nephew co-writes the song Rise, and the song is a hit. It goes to #1. Herb Alpert being the only artist in history to have a #1 as a vocalist with This Guy's in Love with You in 1965 and with Rise in 1979 as an instrumentalist. Da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum da 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 dum da 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 dum. Come on, you know it. You know it. Then there's the dating game, da 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 da, which I think he happens to be playing in this song. That song in this picture. Da 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 da. That's called the Spanish Flea. Popular, awesome song. So what else can I tell you? This is a Whipped Cream album cover. This is South of the Border. There's the babe. Here's the babe again. What Now, My Love? And it started with The Lonely Bull. Herb got this idea to go to a Mexican a bull, what's a bull race? Bull show? He got this matador vision, and the matador egging on the bull, and the bull charging. So he goes to the stadium. It's vacant, and the Tijuana Brass are stationed right in the middle of the bleachers. And you get this big helicopter view coming down, and it's zeroing in, zeroing in, zeroing in, and then there's Herb, and he's playing The Lonely Bull. Wow. He was so ahead of his time. There's a video when, first of all, he bought A&M Records with his partner, and they went into the old Charlie Chaplin studios in California. So there's a video of just 10, 12, 30 actors dressed up as Charlie Chaplin, and it's just magnificent. It was before AI, and it is just a delightful, delightful video. And at the end, they give Herb a mustache and a hat, a bowler hat like Charlie Chaplin, and sort of, if you can't beat them, join them. So, saying all this to say, I got in the car, I drove, and I take a nap, I go to the show, and sure enough, there's Jack selling the merchandise. And I bought this, and it's a spectacular shirt. I've already had compliments on it. And so I have the option now to drive home, which is another 2.5, 3 hours. It's 10 o'clock at night, or I stay at the hotel. I've already paid for it. There's no refund. I said, you know what? I'm really drained. I need a good night's sleep. I go to sleep. Great night's sleep. Had a cup of tea in the morning. take a shower, start heading out, check out, ask the lady, where's the cafeteria? She goes, right around the bend here, go down the stairs. I walk into the cafeteria, and folks, who was standing there? Not standing there. Who was eating breakfast there? I was standing there. It was Herb Alpert with Jack and two of the Tijuana Brass players, all four of them. There was maybe 7 people in the whole restaurant. And me. I put all my clothes overnight in like a brown paper bag. I looked like a bag man because I didn't want to go up into my attic to get my luggage. And I approached the table. I was shaking. And I said, I'm so sorry to interrupt, Mr. Alpert. Thank you for the show last night. And then Jack, I go, oh, I know Jack. He goes, hello. And I said, you just took me back to that 12-year-old boy with my dad growing up. And it was just really spectacular. And, you know, is it an imposition to get a picture? And Herb began to talk when Jack interceded. And Jack said, look, it's nothing personal, but because of his age, because of health reasons, and social media, I don't know what that meant. He said people get jealous. We can't take a picture with Herb. I said, okay, I respect that. And I just want to thank you again. I just can't thank you enough. I'll leave you alone. I'm sorry for interrupting. And they said, not a problem, not a problem. So I go and I sit by myself, and obviously I'm going to take a picture, right, from the distance. I'm going to show you that picture right now. And this is me on Thursday. And I'm going to try. And there's Herb Alpert sitting there having breakfast, drinking his Fiji bottle. So naturally, the waiter comes over, asks me what I want. I tell him what I want. And I said, do you know who that is over there? He goes, no, I don't. And I said, don't look. Don't look. And he turns and he looks. And now they're looking at us. But I said, that's Herb Alpert. And I played him some of the dating game theme. And he goes, oh, I know that. And he goes, oh, that's why those people were, oh, now I understand. I said, what happened? He said there were people went up to him earlier and were thanking him. So I think that's why I didn't get the picture, because those people before me, if they wanted a photograph, they were told no, and they couldn't say yes to me. And if they said no to them and then yes to me, then maybe they would come back and say, hey, could we have a picture? You just gave it to that other guy. So I totally understand. In hindsight, I would have tried to not be so nervous. But also in hindsight, I should have picked up their tab. I should have. I usually think like that, but I wasn't thinking. What could it have been? For breakfast for 4 people, $100? That would have guilted them into giving me the picture. Maybe Jack would have said, hey, you know, Carmine's not such a bad guy. Let's give him a picture. But as they walked out, Jack says, hey, see you next show. I said, thank you. Thanks, Herb. And Herb went like this. He waved and he went like this. And it was really exciting. So the waiter goes and cleans the table. And while the waiter is looking the other way, I go over and I take the Fiji bottle that Herb drank out of. This is the bottle. The same hands playing that trumpet, the same hands that touch this bottle. Now, I didn't drink it. I didn't touch it. I put my mouth to it. I poured it out. I cleaned it. I put the concert ticket in there as a memory. And then when you buy the t-shirt, they give you this. Very cool. Other shirts that you can buy on their website. Very cool. And so I'm saying all this to say God, okay, orchestrated, ordained the whole thing from the beginning. Missing Herb playing in my own backyard earlier, 3 months earlier. Getting that ticket in the 8th row. Getting a hotel right across the street. Having a great time at the show. When everybody said, why do you want to go, Carmine? Well, you know, what's the big deal? No, it is a big deal. this is what's important to me. And you should do things that's important to you. This was on my bucket list. The man is 91 years old. You know, who knows if he's going to tour again. Okay? So I am in the beginning of retiring. This is perhaps my first month that I'm retired. And I just signed up for Medicare. So yes, I will be 65. And these are the things that are important to me. And so God wants to give us the desires of our heart. And you know what? To see the show itself, just to see the show alone, was awesome. On a 1 to 10, it was a 12. With videos playing of him in the background. Again, like I said, 30 years, 60 years earlier, it was just remarkable. But to meet him the next day, that's giving me a desire of my heart. And that's what the Bible says. God wants to give you the desires of your heart. And he goes exceeding abundantly more than we could ever think or ask. My life changed. I was walking down from the elevator. I went to check out from the hotel. And I was going home. And I walked into that cafeteria and everything changed. I met Herb Alpert. That's remarkable. Right now he's worlds apart. Right now he's somewhere. And I'm here in my house. We will never meet again. Most likely we will never meet again. And I could say I met Herb Alpert and I'm excited about it. So just want to say hi. If that made you laugh, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. I'm thinking about doing a video on Yoko Ono next. I met her a few times. Very interesting woman. So thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys soon.